on our camera. Hindi pa ako makakapag-picture. I can't see Carl Sebastian yet and Odlanier. Ano ba kayo? Mga nasa dilim ba kayo? Masyadong mataas ang camera. Nakikita ko yung mga ceiling. Hit properly. Okay. I'll be discussing the whole 1 hour or so. But then I'll be calling your names from time to time to read the slides I'll be presenting to the class. So for me to check if you're still there. No? So you're required to turn on your camera and microphone once I call you for classroom participation. Okay? Sige, let me screenshot. And that's it with me. Ready na ba, Nikki? Okay. 1, 2. Clarence, please adjust your camera. Ang nakikita ko yung noo mo. Ikaw, Nikki, nakikita ko yung tenga mo. Okay, again. Okay, once. Okay, one more. Later, I will ask you again to open your camera for our documentation. 1, 2. Okay. This is for morning. Anyway, hanggang morning naman talaga ng klase. Anyway, okay. So today is our discussion of communication and globalization. May I know first if you can hear me clearly? So I need to adjust the volume. Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, good. Oh, just give me a moment. Okay, so you may turn off your camera for now, but again, I will call you based on the list of participants this class. So you have to turn it on when I call your name. Okay, so we're going to discuss today communication. Actually, I prepared 4 uh, sets of slides. And our first discussion is to review what we have learned from ethical communication. So I'm presenting to you the slides with the sources, with my references. So if you wish to get a copy of my presentation or our discussion, materials for this discussion, then you may just screenshot what I'm presenting to you today. But I will also be uploading some materials that you can read about this topic. Okay, so we had the presentation about ethical versus non-ethical practices, not just in communication, but in general setting. We have we learn different ways of practicing ethical communication. As a student, as soon to be professionals, definitely we should always be observing the following. So here we understand that this age and time, or in this digital age, definitely we make use of technology as part of our everyday activity. We have access to technology, but we do not forget the ethics or our proper communication uh, that should always be observed. Language fluency, of course, we again review the language that are popular to us and the one that we are home with. as part of our uh, activity, as part of your skills or education. Definitely, you do not just uh, enhance. We try to be more open to understanding the differences of the varieties of English language as well as the languages in the Philippines. We do understand that there are different systems and um, different systems, and definitely we understand how it works for the language users. So we go to the language use. Definitely, we understand when to use formal and less formal language. Then we also have consideration for potential roadblocks, just like in any communication situations. Some there are some noises. So we have external and internal noise. So when you say internal noise, definitely that's noise that you encounter when you are communicating. So it is personal. It is something that you experience on your own. And external, something that's internal, right? On your own. External is the ones that younger control. So just like when we are having the discussion inside the classroom during our face-to-face meeting, we have no control over those people who are walking around the the wing, the south, the west wing, where we're having our face-to-face classes. But then, of course, we can do something about that by making sure that we observe silence, especially during the classroom hours or discussion hours. Now we all, and even exams, right? We understand the jargon. On the other hand, there's particular language used in a particular setting or profession. Like when you say legalese language is a legal language. Then we have medical jargons. We have uh, yellow jargon. That's for advertisement and so on. Then we have business jargons and the like. And then the idea of openness and transparency, of course, we understand how in academic and workplace community, we observe openness and transparency to avoid uh, red unethical or red tape and such in different transactions. And we understand how it's important that we always have the receipts. So the receipt now have different definition based on the use of based on the language that you use. So definitely we have the development of relationship. It's the idea of communication, right? We definitely aim to have better relationship, not just in a personal level, but different level or aspects in our lives. And that's the idea of uh, how we practice ethical communication, or at least the fundamentals of ethical communication. So the idea is definitely employ respectful free speech, be honest, and avoid plagiarism. As a student, this is the uh, common thing that we neglect. We do not really observe how to properly cite documents or materials that we use. Identify sources, decide when to cite, develop paraphrase, understand paraphrasing and direct quotation and the like. Develop accurate citations, set responsible speech rules, promote diversity, use inclusive language, so meaning instead of always just using the generic term that we use, let's say, uh, stewardess, uh, definitely we use the general, which is feminine. So meaning it's not sexist language, it's not uh, male dominant language, something like that. It's definitely fair use of fair language as we call it. And then we have here avoid hate speech. Definitely, that's what we understand and we always are remind our students to do. And of course, to raise social awareness. So you use your social media platforms or other social media accounts to promote social awareness. Particularly, I think most of you are registered voters who will use or exercise your right of suffrage. Definitely, I do expect that you will use your platform, whatever it is, could be your TikTok account, could be your Instagram account, and the like, where you can express yourself and raise social awareness. You have your audience, you have your online friends, and you have your families who understand uh, your concepts, your principles. Now, I think we're done with this, reviewing what we have so far understand about ethical communication. Now, here is module 2, communication and globalization. May I know your thoughts about how we relate communication to globalization, or how would you relate communication to globalization? Lord Van, would you like to uh, share your thoughts about this? What's communication and globalization all about, Lord Van? Go on. I can't hear you yet. Please turn on your microphone. Go on. Perhaps you could define communication first and then define what you understand about globalization and then connect it. Okay? Okay, thank you, Lord Van. I think Lord Van Lord Van was able to give most of the keywords about communication and globalization. Let me hear some others who would like to share your thoughts. Anyone else? Hmm. You want me to call your names? No, no volunteer. Okay. I'm not seeing any hands. Mhm. Okay. Let's Let me hear from Aaron. Aaron Yosef. Aaron.
Hello po
Yes.
ma'am, can you hear me po?
Yes. You may go. You
Okay
may
po,
start answering the question.
okay po. For me po, communication is when two or more people are involved and they are talking about certain topics, while in globalization naman po, for me, I think it means po na, ah, the cultures and the trading of information of different places around the world is getting easier po compared to before. And to connect both po, for me, communication is being used in globalization since, for example, a person in one country is ano po, communicating with another person in another country wherein they will trade information and they learn something new since we all know that in different countries there are different traditions, cultures, and different societal norms that we may not be familiar with po.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Who else would like to share his or her thoughts? I call on Teresa B. Jesus. Leah, Teresa.
Hello po, ma'am. Am I audible po?
Go on.
So, what are my thoughts about communication and globalization? Well, well, most of my classmates already said the definition of both words. So, I think that communication supports the exchange of thoughts, our culture, and different meanings of life between other nations po. That's all.
And thank you. Who else would like to share? Vivian. What about Vivian? Yes?
Hello po. Am I audible po?
Yes, please turn on your camera.
Wait lang po, sorry. Nag-echo po ba?
Are you going to answer, Vivian, or not?
I will po, pero wait lang po. Hello po. Am I audible po?
Kanina ka pa nagsasalita, kanina pa kita sinasagot, Vivian.
Nag-echo po kasi sa akin kaya baka po may echo din po sa inyo. So, since my classmates were able to discuss what is globalization and communication is, personally, I can say that communication plays a crucial role in globalization. So, without communication, we will not be able to move forward to globalization since globalization is where different nations, different countries are interconnected. And without communication, this will not be possible po. That's
Okay,
all.
thank you. Let me share these slides. Okay, so again, most of those keywords were mentioned so far by your classmates. Let us understand deeper the origin of this idea and how important communication is during these times that we get to understand more about it. So the Silk Road map is something that you already perhaps you've seen before in your history class. I want you to look at this map and I want you to read the places uh, that were emphasized here. Perhaps the countries that were part of the Silk Road or that is part of the Silk Road. We have here the China, the India. You can see the South China Sea, Gobi Desert, the Great Walls, and actually this is just part of it. No, there's a bigger, uh, bigger map of this Silk Road. But I want you to get the gist of what this road would like to emphasize to us. Anyone who perhaps have seen a documentary about Silk Road? It's available by on Netflix. So the title is the same, the Silk Road. And perhaps you have seen the show Marco Polo. or you have read the history, the Asian history, and something about Genghis Khan and the like. Hey, anyone who would like to say something about the Silk Road? Perhaps you have seen those shows, or you have read, or you can remember the history class about this. Anyone who would like to give your thoughts about this? Sino kaya yung mga mahilig sa history, or at least you remember something about this? Jared? Have I called Jared? Yeah, Jared. Please turn on your camera, Jared. Can't see you. I can't see you yet. Okay, there you go. Okay, Jared, what do you know about the city? Is it something familiar to you? I can't hear you, Jared. I can see that you're speaking already.
Hello po, ma'am.
Ayan, that's it.
Ah, Actually, I haven't watched the documentary that you were, ma'am, referencing or anything about the Silk Road.
What about your history? I think it is something that is discussed in the world history. You have that subject in high school, or somehow you encountered this in your history class?
It's just po, like, yung parang knowledge ko po, it's just limited na,
Yeah, yeah,
basic lang.
give us what you remember.
Yung po siya, parang yung network of trade routes
Okay, will you
that
please
connected the
speak in
east.
English, Jared?
It's the network of trade routes that connected the east and the west.
Mm-hmm.
And, um, it's just that it stretched through China. It's just from China through Central Asia, to the Middle East and onto Europe. Uh, and then yung main takeaway na, parang yung main fact na I know about the Silk Road, it's that it got its name silk because it's a price product from China, and it was one of the main goods that was traded then. That's it, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, thank you. At least you can say something about this. Okay, who else would like to share something about the idea of Silk Road? Anything that you remember from your previous classes, like your history class? Okay, so I think Jared was able to give us some of the keywords we have to understand this. So going back to these slides, so just continue this. So again, it is a collection of routes that send goods throughout Asia, Middle East, East Africa, and Europe. So yung part na to, that this part of the Silk Road that was captured is definitely Asia and Middle East, no? The part of the East Africa and Europe was not included. But the idea here is this is much closer to us when we say throughout Asia, just like the galleon trade, definitely. It is something that discovers the Philippines. That's the idea. We learned that from our history class, something that were used as or the purpose of discovering is definitely to share trades. So for us, for Asian, definitely it's something from our natural resources. So when we talk about the spices and the like, from other countries like India and China, there are other goods that are traded as well. But for the Silk Road, it's really a road. It's not something that uh were done through a particular trade or galleon trade, something like that. But definitely, this is a road where people really have uh to travel to do their to do the trade. Okay, so this is what we understand about this idea of globalization. So it started 15th to 18th century. So as I mentioned earlier, from spices to silk, to gold, silver, sugar, cotton, tobacco, pepper, and tea, and these exotic animals and plants. So these were the reasons why people were doing business. So in particular, trading these goods, the best that they have for something that they do not have. So there's no currency yet, or perhaps the currency is not yet definitely something that is not a factor during that time. So basically, uh trades and services, actually services comes later. Definitely trades or these goods were traded uh for regular like regular activity uh to the usual, which is to definitely have the goods for everyday activity. Globalization 1.0, 19th century, this is where we see the steam-powered railways. So there is development already of these machineries. We have weaving machine, electrical telegraph, definitely need or being exported or as well. But the idea of export is not yet, again, something that is highlighted. The idea is to really exchange, no? The idea, the word exchange is the one that's used. That's why it's trade, no? Iron, textiles, and manufactured goods. So when you say manufactured goods, they are not just relying on the goods from the natural resources, but definitely they are trying to produce more. So globalization 2.0, as we can see, there's already the steam engine railroad, telegraph, telephone, car, planes, cottons, and t-shirts. So definitely from this, we already have the development. Maria Teresa, what are you chatting? What are these crosses? Are you going to tell us something?
Sorry po ma'am, napindot po. Di po
Okay.
napansin.
Sige. Let me continue. So, globalization 2.0, this is again very much familiar. Ako sa 1980s baby ako, no? So, between 1980s to this millennial ako. But definitely, this is very familiar already to me because this is what we have, no? Meron tayo nito. So, the idea of globalization before, iniisip ko lang before yung mga imported products, meaning yung mga something that we don't have in the Philippines, something that we value as a child, but then thinking that those things are not readily available in the Philippines, no? Uh, Definitely yung steam engine naman, yung railroad, wala naman tayo nito. Meron, pero I mean, ang naabutan ko naman, no, it's different na engine na. But definitely, we have the telephone, pero before we have the telephone booth, no, we do not have yet, what I remember, we don't have yet the cell phone during that time. And definitely, if you want to, let's say, contact relatives uh, from, let's say, from other places, we have to go to the center, like we call it Sabayan. We have this the town center, as we call it. So there's one, like, really one, but several, very few, telephone booths where we have to line up just to call our relatives from other places. So not so much of plane companies or air uh aircraft in the Philippines, not so much before, definitely ngayon ang dami na even small uh aircraft companies. Car is not as much as before. You can really afford cars before if you are really, let's say, have a very stable business. I think most of those people have cars. Even in our history, you can see that uh, cars as expensive as they are before, they they have, let's say in the Philippines, they are just um sorry. Uh, Definitely the cars are not as available as we can afford now. I think at least most of the families can have cars, like small cars are available. Cottons definitely something that is pricey depending on the quality. And of course, t-shirts is the main thing, like, anong tawag dun sa mga t-shirts na to? But definitely, those t-shirts, like, it's like it's not definitely a luxury, it's a necessity. And common, 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 that people all over the world are craving about, because it's like something that we usually wear these days, right? And of course, ito na, perhaps most of you, uh, what is familiar to you is the following: 3D printing, manufacturers, internet connection, cell phone, and computer and laptops. So I don't know if you have experience going to computer centers before. Siguro you're not. I'm sure there are still computer centers. But here in DP before, you can, like, if you have projects, you have to make sure that you have reservation to certain computer shops. And we use this scam, and ano pa ba yun? They usually use me, but before we still have the discount. I'm not sure if you're still familiar with that. But definitely, these are the changes. Uh, Through time, we get to share the technology from other nation, other countries. Definitely, that's something that is brought by globalization. And because we communicate around the globe, from the usual or from the snail mail to emails these days, from a simple telephone call where you have to drop some points you to call or to make contact. Definitely, the use of teleconferencing these days is a big upgrade of what we have. But again, it's not just the Philippines that experience that. Different countries have different um, stages also of getting this development or innovations. We are still developing country. There are countries that are uh, considered, or they are already first world country. Definitely, they are advanced in terms of technology, in terms of perhaps innovations and the like. And what we have now, which is very familiar to you, I'm sure, is the AI, the robotics, the digital services, the smart homes, and even the use of solar. Um, people do not really, before, we don't really have this uh, capacity to make use of the solar energy, even in far-flung areas or provinces in the Philippines. You really have you really need sponsors or at least producers who would um, happily share the technology to use the natural resources to provide basic commodities and definitely solar power as well for basic services, not just commodities. Now, I wanted to screenshot this for you to have a better understanding how it started from simple trades to what we have this week. The idea of a business transaction or for economic reason is definitely the basis of globalization. But it's not only business and trade that is the purpose of globalization. We understand that because of globalization, we have to understand the goods and materials uh, from other places. There are turning points or impact to the lives of the people and events that made significant changes in development. Also, we understand that it's not all positive. Of course, we have there are some negative effects also of globalization to to people and around the globe. Uh, But definitely, if we're going to summarize the characteristics of globalization, we have global connectivity. So we understand the integration of economies, we exchange, we export goods, we import goods, not just to Southeast Asian, but also to our neighboring and even global uh, economic community. We also experience here our culture. We have information exchange, as your classmates mentioned before. It will take time for you to get the message of a family member who live across borders. And definitely, it takes time for you to respond as well. But this day, if you feel something now, if you want to say your thoughts, share your feelings and the like, you can always use different platforms to do that. And people all over the world could see what you would like to share to your social media. And definitely we understand how different nations are interconnected or interdependent when it comes to economic purpose or security. Definitely, we have cultural exchange. We understand that there are different types of languages, like the varieties of English. We have Singlish or Singaporean English. We have, we call it Philippine English, uh, and other varieties of English that is spoken around the globe. But what we understand is it's still something that, or it's a language that is understandable. Definitely, there are cultural elements involved. We have technological advances, like again, um, the use of robotics. Uh, it's good news for us Filipinos that a lot of students are venturing to develop robotics for a specific, let's say, purpose. And it's not something that is just for, let's say, uh, first world country, but Filipinos could, especially techie Filipino students could compete around the globe when it comes to the skills. Multinational corporation, definitely they would like to invest to us because of the skills of the Filipinos. So what we share to the world is basically our people skills. We have we have the idea of migration. A lot of people move from one place to another, from one country to another, from one region to another in the life. Definitely, it's for work, for education, and sometimes for refuge. So do we take refugees from other country? Yes, we do. But we have limited capacity. But big nations definitely could have refugees and they could accommodate them and help them with their everyday needs. But for the Philippines, like a country and Asian country, we have a limited capacity and we understand that. But what we know about migration these days is that a lot of Filipinos would now study abroad, not just because they can afford it, but because of the available scholarships, not just for undergraduate, but for graduate studies as well. And it gives a lot of opportunities for Filipinos to expand and to showcase their showcase our skills around the globe. Political influence, on the other hand, definitely involves national policies, and we are influenced mostly by our partners, um, partner nations, and definitely we are part of different world organization to protect our interests as a country. And definitely the basic principle of protecting human rights. And of course, the geographical concerns of the Philippines and security, definitely, food security and the like. We have environmental concerns. We are part of the UN Sustainable Goals, or we are adhering to the idea of doing something for our country, for the world by doing activities or projects, actions to solve global issues such as climate change. So I just hope that as a student, you can give your thoughts about climate change and could contribute how you can in how you can solve it or in your own way, how you can practice sustainable activities or actions to solve global issues such as climate change. And then, of course, globalization provides a lot of challenges and opportunities. Definitely for the nation and for individuals, we have uh, we have to understand we can how much opportunities we can share or we can have with in our activities or in our education, in our profession, and of course, it comes with different challenges as well. Now, we also understand the elements then let's go first to the four dimensions. So here we have the word globalization at the center, but these are the four words that we call the dimension. We have the political, the cultural, environmental, and ecological. I'm sure these are self-explanatory, but just to give you more or better understanding of the idea that globalization is not all about economic, or it's not just for economic reasons, as we mentioned earlier, but we understand how it affects our political views, definitely how it develops our culture. We have to understand, or we have to uh, improve from cultural awareness to cultural sensitivity and the like. Then, of course, become more aware of the impact of the environment to individuals and to our nation. How we should, how we could protect our environment so in return we could have a better world to live in, and how we could battle the natural calamities and challenges that we experience. And of course, the word ecological. I would like somebody to tell me what you understand about ecological and why it is one of the dimensions of urbanization. Political, cultural, environmental are common to us, but what about ecological? Can I hear from Clarence? Check. I called you Clarence. Not yet.
Yes po, ma'am.
Natawag na ba kita, Clarence?
Ay, hindi pa po. Ayan po.
Oh, sige. Would you like to explain what ecological is?
Eco, ano po, I'm sorry po, mahina. Ecological po ba, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay po, ma'am. So for me po, ecological globalization, it focuses on how the environmental issues are being talked worldwide po, ma'am. For example, about pollutions in one country or different pollution in a country that can affect the other countries po yung, or neighboring countries. For example, Philippines, pollution in Philippines can affect the other countries like Indonesia, Thailand, Taiwan, yun po. And sa impact naman po, for me, countries need po, for the impact, countries need to work together to protect our planet po. Since this type of pollution doesn't follow borders po or any location po. Yun lang po.
Such as the global issues that we mentioned earlier, the climate change, the pollution, and the like, definitely does not just affect us, but the whole world, right? How are we going to battle or address these issues? Definitely depends on our actions as individuals and as a nation. We have to uh have we have to make connection with other countries to have better, perhaps better methods, better policy, better resources to combat these issues. And we have the keyword biodiversity. I think that's what I want you to connect when it comes to this dimension. Anyone else who would like to give his or her thoughts about uh, ecological? Anyone else? Okay, since I'm volunteer, and I will call names. Let's have Marjoy.
Hello po, audible po ba?
Yes, go on.
So ecological globalization po, it
Marjoy,
is
sorry, I can't see you. I
Wait lang po.
just see black tie.
Okay na po ba?
I don't know with your classmates. Guys, can you see Marjoy? Am I the only one who can see her?
Hindi rin po kita.
Perhaps you could adjust your camera. I don't know, Marjoy. I'll get back to you, Marjoy. Francine Denise. Francine? Okay, I can see Francine. Same question, Francine.
Audible.
What do you understand about ecological dimension of globalization? Yes, you are audible.
Um, what I can understand po, you're asking po about its connection to biodiversity. So in my opinion po, it can affect biodiversity positively and negatively since sa globalization, we have global trade and industry. So initially industries for them to grow, they needed space. So um it can affect deforestation since they may um they may what do you call this? They may need space for their factories, and also it can affect biodiversity positively in a way that we can share ideas about how we can protect our Mother Earth, how we can conserve energy, and how we can prevent all the negative effects that um our industries um impacts our environment. Like we have ano mame, global policies and what do you call this? I forgot the exact word pero parang arrangement about regarding countries po.
Thank you. Marjorie, are you now ready?
Wait lang po. Try ko po ulit. Kapag hindi po na gano'n, eto po. Lilipat na lang po ako ng device. Naka-open na po ba?
Still,
Wait
let's
lang po.
see.
Try ko
Okay,
pong lumipat.
let's hear from who else. Yeah, I can see you now, Marjorie.
Eto po.
Sige. You
Wait
may
lang.
want to answer the same question.
So, for me po, yung ano po, ecological globalization po. It is the way it is the environmental issue po that can affect not only one country po, but the whole world po. So, it shows how nature and global is connected to each other po because it can impact the people and the ecosystem around it. So, the ecological globalization is a part of globalization because this kind of problem can only be solved by the countries that works together po.
Okay, thank you. So just like what Marjoy and Francine mentioned about ecological globalization, there could be positive and negative impact of this, particularly when it comes to protecting our environment, the biodiversity definitely, as is our main concern, how to make things balance and how to make sure that we protect the the biodiversity to continue life on Earth in general and um to continue supporting the organisms. And in general, this is something that we have to, in our simple actions as individuals, we have to start in our own backyard, in our own community to support the global concerns, global goals of sustaining life. Okay, like making sure that we we observe the zero hunger or no child will be hungry, no child will not be educated, all those things. So those are just the basic things or concerns that we have to address. A lot of people around the globe cannot eat 3 times or were not able to eat 3 times a day. That's why we are doing something to provide and help our neighboring countries. But again, there are some ways we can, simple ways we could contribute to those needs. Kaya nga meron tayong 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. Gian is turning on or just turned on his camera. Gian, would you like to share? My question to you is that how do you think you could address or in particular, let's go back to the idea of biodiversity. how would you contribute in protecting the biodiversity in any uh in any ways? Yeah.
Ma'am,
Ninay
good morning, ma'am.
Pikachu.
Am I audible?
Yes, go on.
Thank you, ma'am. In answering your question po, ma'am, how can I contribute in protecting the biodiversity? Uh, but firstly, ma'am, since I was a student, I would share the knowledge about the the our ecosystem and our environment and why biodiversity matters. No. I would educate and spread awareness po since I am also a student learning, ma'am. And so sharing those knowledge that I know about the endangered species, ecosystems, biodiversity, it can also help other people understand better. And it may also encourage them from uh, also promote tawag nito, ma'am, what do you call this? Uh, promote it can also support their ano ma'am, sustainable choices in life. Like for example, ma'am, we can opt to eco-friendly products, ma'am, like so, and promote plant-based and local diets, and also say no to ano, ma'am, say no to products na gawa sa endangered animals like yung mga skins ng ah, alligator, ganyan. And also, ma'am, ano,
Understand your point, yes. Pero yung skin naman ng alligator, that depends kung cultured siya, no? Meron naman talagang
yes, ma'am.
institution or let's say a company that produce that. Yung talagang pinapalaki sila for that purpose. No?
Yes
Iba
po.
naman talaga yung protecting our endangered species. But I do understand your point. Would you
Yes, ma'am,
like
yes,
to
ma'am.
add more?
Also, ma'am, I would like to add more on advocating for recycling, ma'am,
Mhm.
especially
The four
reducing plastic
R's.
use and composting. And that's it, ma'am. Thank you po.
It's important to understand how we could, in our own ways, protect the ecosystem in general. And definitely, what we pick up is that the idea of protecting in our own effort, protecting our environment through our simple actions or efforts, like segregating garbage, promoting um, sustainable actions, planting or using the spaces available for you to grow your food, and definitely supporting projects, programs that protects the environment. You join tree planting activities if you can. You support uh, projects, uh, projects that implement or uh, suggest or promote in general, not just suggest, promote uh, environmental concerns. No, example is yung mga when there are policies for protecting the forest, yung bodies of water. So you join those organizations that helps protect the environment. That's the general thing that we understand about protecting biodiversity. And of course, we try to support and promote awareness about uh, conservation, international laws and national projects for protected areas. And supporting crime prevention and the like that might destroy the biodiversity in general, no? Yung mga fire and such. Okay, so let us move on to the next. Where is my okay? So from this, we have dimensions, but there are specific types of these dimensions, or we call it more of elements. So we have the social, the financial, the technological, and geographical. And I believe this is uh, understandable to all of you. It's just that it's specific or focus specifically on different setting, like social globalization, how we develop our friendly uh, develop our friendly relation with our neighboring countries and allies, as we call them. Of course, we have uh, European ally or allies rather. Then we have the financial globalization, like what we gain from our partnerships with American companies and Southeast Asian nations that promotes human resources, more on uh, migration and exchange of services. We also have the technological globalization, what we learned from advanced countries like Japan and the like, and uh, what we could contribute to the technological aspect. And of course, the geographical globalization, we are closest to countries such as Thailand, Vietnam, India, China, and the like. Definitely, we have access to some countries that no need to process visa because we already have a tie-up with them. We have global relations with them when it comes to uh, concerns or goals of these geographical allies. And of course, we understand that the elements that we experience globally is privatization. It's familiar to us, deregulation, and liberalization. So I would like you to screenshot the following and let us understand more of the samples of these elements. The first one is privatization. Definitely, they're government-owned companies or corporations, sorry, and now transferred to the private sector, who could provide more or better management because of so many concerns of the government. If these corporations are transferred or privatized, there would be specific set of people and management who would cater to the to this corporation. So let's say before the service provider of the one who managed the, let's say, the electricity, the corporation that owned the electricity provider definitely is privatized, so that specific a specific concern of these services will be delivered or will be managed by these private corporations or companies that could focus on the services of this corporation. Definitely we understand if it's privatized, there is profit. It's expected to have better profit. And that's the general concept. But it's not just about earning more, but providing more. Because if it's controlled by the government or owned by the government will have so many things to cater to. And that could be what? That it could be mismanaged. But if it's privatized, there are certain situations where privatization is much uh better or preferred when it comes to basic services. The idea is to provide better services to the people. Okay. Then we have the deregulation. So the changes when it comes to the prices of the commodities, pabago-bago, let's say for this week we have low uh cost of energy or oil, but then the following days it's much higher than the usual and the like. Because of the word deregulation, it is based on the market flow or the uh, needs or uh, it depends on the situation in the market, such as the water and electricity and basically the oil. So there's supply, there's transmission and distribution. When it comes to distribution, the prices varies depending on the effect on the effect from the following kind of distribution. It could be affected by the supplier. If let's say there is Gulf War or there's problem with the source country, definitely, let's say if there's war, uh, the sources of this oil could countries from where this oil or resources were taken from or sourced out, definitely there could be problem or bigger or higher costs before distributing it to the public. And we understand that. But again, there are laws that protect the consumers, that protect the nation from this unexpected changes or factors or situations. Liberalization, on the other hand, like we have the liberalized education, we have the liberalized policy, meaning we are getting a different or could be 180-degree different concept of what is traditional, what is common, something that is changed or a different perspective because of the policies that limits the limits the capacity. Example is the tariffs and code. So just recently, Donald Trump announced 17% higher of the tax or tariffs from Filipino products. So again, just like the concern of many other allied countries like Canada, di ba? Kumbaga may breakup na when it comes to China. And then it's Canada and America. But it's America who would like to have uh have bigger tariffs from to get bigger or charge higher tariffs from outside products. And definitely that would make some restriction. What we understand here is that these have political and economic reasons or concerns that we we always see and experience these days not all countries have their natural resources. We have a lot of natural resources, but we do not have the capacity to dig our own oil. Diba? That takes a lot um, of resources for us to have our own oil. Napakamahal ng proseso. But the idea is that if we could just export it from other nations where they are the ones as they are countries that are the main producer of these goods, definitely uh it would be it could provide a lower price of these basic resources or commodities. But what we understand here is that there are positive and negative impact of globalization. The four benefits definitely are increased flow of capital, better products at lower prices, just like yung oil because of the regularization. But again, there's always positive and negative impact of that. Collaborations and shared resources. So if we collaborate with other countries through, let's say, research projects and shared resources, actually in China, that's what they are promoting ever since, no? Shared resources. They would like to share uh our resources, and I don't know if it's vice versa, but definitely that's the idea, the collaboration. It's what they are introducing the world, that they are collaborators, and that's what we are seeing these days. A lot of European brands or companies, as well as American brands, are sourcing out the services from Asian countries that provides a lower rate of human resources. Definitely, that would make them save their resources or their capital. And because of this, there could be some political uh, political outcomes or political influences. And again, the quick technological advances is what we are aiming to maximize or to have better technology when it comes to production. They say if we only have the technology to produce our own oil, definitely that would make the Philippines very rich. Okay, so here we understand the 20th and the 21st century uh, differences. I would like you to give you a quick observation of differences between the 20th century and the 21st century globalization. Anyone who would like to um, volunteer? Nikki, Alicia, perhaps could tell us what this is all about. Nikki?
Hello po ma'am, am I audible po?
You just have to adjust your volume. Yes, I can hear you. Okay, Nikki, I'm making it bigger. And I would like you to focus on the uh, differences when it comes to this century. Just 1 century apart, definitely is still big when it comes to the changes or development in globalization. Please tell me the gist, your understanding or rather, of the development of globalization from 20th to the 21st century.
Hello po ma'am. So, on what I can see po right now, I think po in 20th century po, the globalization is limited. In a way, it has limited connection po, especially in, um, let's say, um,
Sorry, you have to turn on your camera and you have to adjust your volume. I can hardly hear you.
There po, ma'am.
Okay, can see you now. Sige, go on.
Hello po. Hello? Is it clear na po ba?
Okay, much better.
So, just as what I've said earlier po, in 20th century, the globalization is much more limited in a way that um, transactions and let's say trades aren't that available po. I can see po dito po sa in this picture po. Especially po in um yes po ma'am and po for 21st century po. I think um globalization expanded and um uh expanded its horizons horizons po in a way that um transactions are more um available to countries especially po in yun po makasabi ay sorry that more exchange of free content and services po. So that's all I can say po. I think.
Focus on some words here, like tangible flows and intangible. So definitely when you say tangible, something concrete, right? Something that can be touched, can be seen. Here, we can have intangible flows of data and information, something that could be readily available. And then we have between advanced economies, but that's what we say advanced. So when we say advanced, may tatalo po po doon. It's more like ano bang, what word could be better than advanced? But here we have the idea of emerging economies. So it's not just for advanced, advanced countries or nations. Definitely, there could be the role or important role of these emerging countries or developing countries when it comes to uh, globalization, and definitely intensive growth, more knowledge intensive growth, because basically what we understand is there's an exchange of capital and labor. But this time, it's not just about that. The knowledge, as we say, is important, but it is something that is also close, the intensity. And then, of course, the infrastructure. This time, we're just talking about, in 20th century, we're just talking about physical infrastructure. But this day and age, we talk about digital infrastructure. And you understand that because of your field, because of your major. And we understand how it would contribute to economic goals and the like. And of course, the idea of multinational companies. If we think of the 20th century, they are the main players. But for this century, 21st century, we understand that it's not just all about these big companies. Small companies are doing their part. They are thriving and evolving and making the market more available to everyone and making an impact to the society when it comes to developing services and goods. Like before, we don't really think of something that is a small farm to table companies, or we think of the um, products that are uh, homemade something like that. Before, it was something that is not really considered. But these days, we think of something that is homegrown, something that is catered, something that is more uh, special, more homey, and the like. What makes it more expensive actually these days is the idea that it is free from what do you call this, impurities, that makes the products more bio, something more available, something more catered, as we call it. Now, we also have the exchange of free content and services. Do we have that in the 20th century? No. Definitely, we understand is that we think of always monetizing things or transactions. But this time, we don't just get services or things by always paying for it. We get what? We get uh freebies, we get free content and services. And of course, there's always change of information. Like example, you can download a book only if you will also upload some material, something like that. Diba? That was not possible before. But because of technology, of course, we can do that now. And we have what? Cross borders ideas. Slowly we're slowly is a description, but for the 21st century, it is access, instant, the word instant. And of course, we have the innovation from advanced to not so advanced country. But this day and age, we have small countries contributing, small countries producing, small countries serves as models of policy. New or better policies were inspired by certain institution, by certain individuals from unknown country, unknown origin. But again, this the change in the landscape. Okay. So I wanted to look at the global issues. I'm sure you have seen this before. Global warming, endangered species, terrorism, poverty, natural disasters, energy waste, diseases, and pollution. So here we have all about globalization ideas. But what I want you to understand and to remember are the key words. Borderless world, policy and technological developments, dramatic reductions of barriers to commerce, technology as the principal driver of the globalization. Now, I have here the word the other principal driver. What is the main driver? Anyone? If technology is the other principal driver, what is that other? That's the first one. The answer is, anyone? The communication. That's the first thing. We have to communicate. Because if we do not communicate, there will be what? Misunderstanding. There will be no opportunity to open products, the services, the goods, and the like. No way for us uh, to strengthen our ties with our neighboring countries if we're not going to communicate with them. That's why, as much as possible, the government communicate in many ways to express our concerns to the global world or global stage, global community, because it's the only way we could make an interaction. It's the only way to develop relationships. That's the only way to find allies. It's the only way to protect our resources. That's the only way to find innovation. So technology, of course, is the principal driver, but the first one is to communicate. That's the idea of globalization. We cannot really be part of it at all if we're not going to communicate. And the use of technology will help us improve our situation in many ways. So these are the general impact of communication or globalization on communication rather, virtual interaction, cultural awareness and speech. Please take note of this. Virtual interaction would be your next group activity. Um, the the complete instruction for this will be posted to your Google Classroom. I just want you to uh, click the link that I'll be posting and read the materials, watch the videos that I'll be posting so that you'll have an idea what will be your next activity as a group. So I might consider that possibly as your midterm activity. But for now, I just want you to look at the definition of virtual interactions. And I'm sure you're familiar with this because again, it's not something that's new. But I would like us to also to look at this cultural awareness and speech. Sometimes the biases, sometimes our indifferences happen when we are not aware of the nuances of the language. And basically, if we have what problems with understanding the cultural identities of speakers. So sometimes, ay bakit ganun sila magsalita parang parang Bisaya or parang Chinese, hindi maintindihan yung English. So sometimes those comments really tells us that we're not particularly aware of the culture. And that's what we have to understand. We have to always practice how to culturally sensitive because that would help us to become better communicators in many ways. Definitely, we have to understand the differences when it comes to business culture, when you transact with Asians, with Europeans, Americans, and the like. Definitely, there are differences. I want you to also focus on cultural awareness in body language because most Filipinos are not really aware how their body should react or what would be the right body posture or proper rather body language in different communication settings. And of course, the idea of time differences. We Filipinos have this idea of Filipino time. That's why we would not, because it's negative, we would like to change that idea that it's always an hour or so late. What we want to do is to really follow the Philippine Standard Time. So we have the PST instead of the Filipino time because of the idea or the negative connotation of Filipino time that is always late. So again, cultural wise, it's based on our Spanish influence. So in some European countries like Spain, businesses starts 10 onwards, 10 a.m. onwards. No? Even yeah, mostly some Europeans also do that. If you're watching or let's say following Emily in Paris, as Americans should start at let's say 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. depending on the company's policy. But then she was surprised that no one is around at 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. in the morning. It's like people will really start their day late in the morning. So it's more like brunch and things like that. So which is very different from her or due to her because as American, she she doesn't she's not really aware that uh the day or the business starts late. very late actually for her as an American. But again, we have to observe that time differences, especially most of you would like to work abroad in the future. So, being culturally aware of the differences, not only about time, but also when it comes to your body language and cultural differences will make you prepared in dealing or doing business transaction with other uh, nations or other individuals from different origin. Definitely, the impact is to make sure that the avail that information is available across the world, that you have the availability of information. That's the purpose of globalization. We have to conduct business accordingly based on what we have to observe from different cultural background and policies. Social awareness is a must, and definitely identify the possible problem that may arise in the communication process. The impact of communication in the global economy is definitely economic growth, technological advance, cultural exchange, and the like. And the negative effect of globalization in world economy could be loss of cultural identity, financial instability, environmental degradation. So, yan yung naging problema natin when China is claiming the nine dash line, no? Definitely, kung ano man ang tawag nila dito, Ayungin Shoal and whatnot, definitely it cause degradation of the environment. And again, this is something that we are trying to complain, no, that it's ours. So it is something that we should protect. And because we see the abuses, we have to step up and do something about it. So it was forgotten, or not really forgotten, but the neglected, rather, the word is neglected in for many years. And definitely world leaders should observe the rights of the nation to claim for their own, or to protect their the natural resources, protect our environment. And of course, the positive and negative impact, again, please screenshot so that you have something to write in your writing activity. Perhaps if not next meeting, the following meeting, that will have a quiz on globalization and communication. So this is generic, but what I would like you to just very quick, no, it's 5 minutes over time already. Just very quick, I would like you to focus on the things that we have for number 2 and number 3. And in number 1, virtual interaction. Number 2 is cultural awareness. Number 3 is gestures, tama ba? And then the fourth one is time differences. So, kung ano yung sinasabi ko, baka naguguluhan kayo, let me go back to this. Just to emphasize, the things that we're going to have for our activity, whether it's online or face-to-face. Time differences, body language, kasama yung gestures dyan, di ba? And the cultural awareness and such. So, ito yung specific activity or specific examples about cultural awareness. We have the body language and time differences. So just to give you a quick set of samples for this. So yung number 1, hindi ko siya bibigyan ng example kasi the given activity for the group will be posted at least before next meeting, or discussion will be done next meeting, but then the instruction for the possible activity will already posted before next meeting. So what I would like you to see is the sample of the cultural um, differences, what you have to understand when you communicate globally. Okay. Here we have the intercultural communication, or what we have to observe as communicators around the globe. There would be differences when it comes to high context versus low context, sequential versus synchronic, affective versus neutral. I'm not sure if I have given samples before, but definitely you have to understand what is high context and low context. Just to give the general idea, when you say high context country, these are direct to the point people. They do not want to have flower in the language. If they say yes, it's really yes. There's no yes, no maybe. They are the ones who are direct when it comes to their speech. Their approach is very generic. They are they are individualists. The high context is more on a group, collective decision making, and the like. The low context is more direct. That's the opposite of the high, no? Example of the high context are Philippines. A sample of low context, mostly Philippines, but again, that depends on the nation. Low context, such as Americans, if they like it, they will say, I like it. Yes, I like it. No or no. No is not yes or no whatsoever. Again, to give you samples later, I will just have a quick posting of the slides. For the sequential, this is what we have, what we call the time differences. So sequential and synchronic. So Filipinos are more of what? Are we sequential or synchronic? And then of course, the affective versus neutral. So from the word itself, more familiar or more into familiar or emotional, that's affective. And neutral, usually like Germans, they are what we call it neutral when it comes to showing emotions and the like. So these are the samples. High context, usually Mediterranean, Central European, Latin American, African, Arab, Asian, American, Indian. But again, this is not, these are the common observation, no? But it's not generalized, meaning some Asian countries are low context rather than high context. Example are Japanese. They are Asian, but they are low context. Para silang European, they are direct to the point. They do not want to have indirect responses. And definitely, when you say high context, you read between the lines, you need to interpret what is being said. Unlike when you talk to or discuss or communicate with low context, what you see is what you get. What you hear is what it is. Okay? So for low context, usually Germanic and English speaking countries, you see a lot of TikTok videos these days of Filipina with foreigner husband, and or Filipinas with or engaged with different cultural background, and they would really make fun of the cultural differences. Example, in Vietnamese and German boyfriend, how Germany and Vietnam are very different in many ways. I think that's a good example of high context and low context. Now, I think this is familiar to you as well when we Filipinos are uh, discussing or communicating with our foreign friends. So again, usually Filipinos are very careful, very respectful when dealing with low context culture because there might be misunderstanding. So example is this. You may take a screenshot. You may just take note of the keywords, low context and high context differences, because this will be part of some of the questionnaires or quiz about communication and globalization. For the sequential, on the other hand, like North American, English, German, Swedish, and Dutch, sequential give attention to one agenda item after another. It's like they do not want to be changing plans. It's like sequential, if you have this schedule, then this should be followed. If there's an agenda, whatever stated as the agenda should be followed, not changing the agenda at that moment, something that they do not really like. So sequential, business people give full attention to one task until completed before starting a new one. So again, I think this is not very Filipino. So based on the description, please take note, um, we are more of synchronic when it comes to the description of time differences. Synchronic, like Filipinos or most of Asian countries, South American and Southern Europe, we have past, present, and future all interrelated. Like if you talk about something today, you might reference to something that happened in the future or in the past and something that might happen in the future. And it's something that's seen as a long term, something that is interconnected. Definitely priorities are much or something that's done, whatever, whether it's something that were accomplished at this point or not, definitely this is that is the priority, something that is valid rather than the stages or the target group. So very Filipinos no sa atin. Oh, basta bibigyan ka ng 1 week. You have 1 week to do that. So it's okay as long as you achieve the goal, you do the target at the given set or limit or deadline as we call it. But again, for other culture or cultural background who have sequential time differences, they are more into what? They are more into observing the the deadline. So sequential time culture, you might want to screenshot this one as well. Sequential, people do one thing at a time. Synchronic, people do multiple things at a time. Sabi nila Filipinos daw, aside from having flexible tongue, we also do a lot of things at the same time. Like what we see from Chinese mothers, diba? And even for the fathers as well. A lot of things are going on in one's times and appointments are precise. Like you have to be on time. Like if it's your 9 a.m. appointment, it should not be 9:01, just like Japan. Japan is sequential. Like if it's already a minute late, they have to issue an apology to the party. So for synchronic times and appointment are intention. So again, these are the differences. You might want to take note of the differences. And of course, for the affective, we have affective culture, just like as I mentioned, Filipinos express themselves more openly. We talk about relationship, we talk about money, we talk about religion to other people. But for neutral country or culture, they do not talk about these things. These things are called are only discussed to family members. This is something that is not discussed publicly. Or even let's say for Koreans, they would not really talk about their relationship openly, especially the celebrities. That's something that they observe. But in general, even if you have like common people as friends, they would not just easily discuss these things. They would not talk about money or unless they were asked, of course, something that you really need to get from them. But again, not all Asians are effective, as well as not all Europeans are neutral. only basically Germans and the like are neutral culture as we call it. So here we have people who do not express themselves openly, hide certain emotions because it is not proper to show them. So katulad kanina, Japan also is a neutral culture wherein they do not easily share their emotion to the public. Of course, there are differences when it comes to styles of communication. So again, neutral culture and effective culture shows different approach in communication or style. So turn taking and silence, very Japanese, Asian, but then neutral culture. Same way when it comes to European, like Spanish. Spanish people are definitely more unaffected. That's where we get our being more expressive, no? And the likes. Okay. So these are just a sample, but for the last slide, let me just go to the slide for number 2, which is the gestures and body language. Definitely, there are things that you should not be doing in public places, especially if you're going abroad or if you will be visiting other countries. There are gestures that are not acceptable to to others. So example is this gestures, the offensive signs around the world, which you consider is normal. Can you see the samples? Yes. Okay, so you may just research on this, but please take note before you go to other countries for pleasure or for official or business purposes. Make sure that you are familiar with the do's and don'ts and things that you should not be doing, like gestures that could be offensive to other cultural background. So these are common. Again, hindi nyo naman kailangang kabisaduhin ito. You just have to research before you go to a certain country, before you transact with other nation or individuals from other cultural background. You just have to be observant and make sure that you're aware of this. As I mentioned, these are do's and don'ts that could be offensive and not acceptable to other uh, cultural background. So this is the idea of communication and globalization. We do communicate with other cultural background, but make sure we observe the proper interaction, whether it's virtual or physical. We observe the gesture or body language. We observe cultural sensitivity and the time differences. So basically, these are the things that I would like you to do. I would like you to also focus on the idea of this. When you research about the culture of other people, you become aware, you become confident, you observe cultural competence rather, uh, you become sensitive when dealing with them. Sensitivity is something that you should always practice because you can show empathy, you show interpersonal communication skills, trust, acceptance, appropriateness, and respect. So all these things is what we have to observe as global communicators. Okay, I think that's it. May I request you guys to turn on the camera? Okay. I hope you're able to get the gist of what I would like you to understand for today's meeting. Are you excited to know the next activity? Would it be face-to-face next time? We don't know yet, right? Depende sa heat index or situations. Okay? Are you guys done fixing your hair and moving? Okay. Yes, Lord Van, you're raising your hand. I'll check. But definitely what important is you're able to submit the requirement for that meeting. Okay, so did we learn something today? May I see reaction from the class?
Yes,
Oo,
ma'am.
ng oo. Yes, yes. May I see? Can you show reaction? I'll take a screenshot of that. Pag nag-quiz tapos wala nga intindihan. Bakit ang reaction ni Jared kamot sa ulo? Ha, Jared, walang natutunan. Daming slides doon na. O, example of charot. Okay, sige. Next time na lang. O, Jan Michael, hindi kita nakita today, ha? You did not volunteer. Baka ngayon ka lang natapos mag-makeup. Ganda pa naman ang hair mo. Okay. Let's have a picture. 1, 2. Another. Okay, 1, 2. Okay. So I hope you learned something today, and please take note of those things because we're going to have a quiz, whether it's face-to-face or online or virtual quiz before we proceed with the group activity. Okay? That's all for now. I'll see you again next time. Bye, everyone.
Thank you po, ma'am.
Thank you po,
Thank you po,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you po.
Thank you po.